Put a bow on 2025, and quite frankly, it looks a lot like 2024, 2023, and every other year that the Texans have gone to the playoffs. However, it might be the worst loss in franchise history, one of the most unforgivable losses in franchise history, and it is definitely a pivotal moment for the DeMeco Ryans era. It is the locker room number one source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. The video brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app. Use the promo code Locker. Get 100% up to $100. It's a very fun game to play. It makes games interesting. And if you took the greater than on CJ Stroud interceptions, then you're probably really rich right now, because CJ Stroud throws 4 interceptions today, and the Texans end up losing the game in New England. And this was a game where a lot of times the stuff that you can't control, it doesn't go your way. And there's always a gray area when it comes to breaking down losses, the end of seasons, wins. There's always kind of a gray area when it comes to that. And in this situation, the Texans put themselves in position to reach the goals that they set out before the season. And the stuff that they didn't control, it's set up perfectly. The first round opponent, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think that's probably who you would have wanted to face. The second round opponent, the New England Patriots, I actually think that's probably who you wanted to face, regardless of the results. And then the Denver Broncos lose Bo Nix. I see New England's a 4-point favorite in that game, and that kind of set up for you as well. And all you really needed in this instance was you needed a quarterback with a pulse. You needed a quarterback with a pulse. And CJ Stroud, for all the talk that we've had about CJ Stroud over the course of his tenure, CJ Stroud played the worst football of his entire career when it mattered most, and when he was asked to do the least. This was not a situation where you were expecting CJ Stroud to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. This was not a situation where you were expecting CJ Stroud to go toe-to-toe with Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. This was a situation where your defense was going to bail you out time after time, and all you had to do was not turn the ball over. And even then, you still would have had a chance to win. And the moment when this happened, the moment when this game fell apart was when CJ Stroud threw a pick six with the Texans leading 10-7. As soon as CJ Stroud threw that pick six, the Texans were in pretty decent control of the game at that point. They just made another stop, and CJ Stroud throws the pick six. Marcus Jones, the former Coug, he takes it to the house, and New England takes the lead. And at that point, you're just like, what's going on? What gives? But this wasn't a situation. There have been times where quarterbacks with this franchise, you've looked at him and you said, man, this guy's fighting a losing battle. That wasn't the case. You can nitpick every year, an injury here, an injury there. But when you actually lay it out and you lay out surroundings versus expectations, this was easy for a QB with a pulse. This was easy. Don't throw a pick six. Don't be scared to use your legs, and just let your defense take you home. It happened against Pittsburgh. And I'm guilty of assuming that the worst was not ahead for CJ Stroud. And I think that was the main assumption, is it can't get worse. The New England game is as bad as it gets for CJ Stroud. And that was one of my questions heading into this game, a game which I was very confident in because of this. But the question here was, if CJ Stroud thought he played good last week, which is what he said, and I said it at the time, and I said it throughout the week, I was shocked that after last week, CJ Stroud went up to the podium and said, I played good. I was shocked. I was surprised, but also I have to be aware that I've been guilty of perhaps putting too much into what's said at press conferences. So maybe that's just not a big deal. But he went up there and said that I played good. And my question was, if I'm going to take CJ Stroud at his word and believe that he actually played good last week when he clearly didn't to anyone with eyes, what does bad look like? Well, we saw it today. We saw it today. We saw what bad looked like. And the last time that a quarterback played this bad in a playoff game, first of all, he was coming off a concussion. And second of all, Bob McNair, rest in peace, made Rick Smith go get Brock Osweiler. That's how bad this was. I've avoided any talk about Davis Mills versus CJ Stroud. I do think there was a game, Jacksonville, that Davis Mills won that CJ Stroud wouldn't have won. I think most of the times when CJ Stroud's out there, that he gives them the best chance to win. But it was a legit discussion today at halftime as to whether or not you needed to bench CJ Stroud for Davis Mills. And that's where we arrived at. We put it off as much as possible, but that's where we ended up arriving at today. It was a CJ Stroud choke job today, and that right there is what the bad looks like. Maybe last week was good against Pittsburgh. Maybe CJ Stroud was right. But at this point, the one thing we know that the defense with DeMeco Ryans is the strength of the team. Outside of the stretch in 2023, which is just such a long time ago, it's hard to even imagine that. The defense is the strength of the team, and the offense, regardless of who the OC is, it leaves a lot to be desired. And quite frankly, I said this at the end of the season, I thought the OC was better than the QB today. I actually did not think Nick Caley was that bad today. Much like at the end of the season. What does that mean? I don't know. It's kind of a low bar based on how bad the quarterback was. But that's where the Texans are at. They're in familiar territory. And the other question now is, if not now, then when? You had everything laid out for you. If it's not going to happen now, then when is it going to happen? The best is not guaranteed. You just let New England skip the line. New England just skipped the line. By the way, Drake May after the game did not say he played well. He had some turnovers. He did not say he played well. So he didn't say that. But I think there's a feel, and I'll just be honest, I'm at every practice. I listen to every word. I observe as much as I can. There's a feel that there's kind of some eggshell walking when it comes to the CJ Stroud stuff, from the way that they talk, from the way that he talks, from the way that they handle things. And I was scrolling through X during halftime just to see what was going on. And I think there was a very telling tweet that I looked at. One of my colleagues, someone that I see every day at the building, DJB NMA, he tweeted, "Do you consider bringing in Davis Mills?" Simple question. It was what was being discussed at halftime. But I thought the interesting part about it, and DJ is probably one of the guys that's closest to CJ Stroud, I would probably say. But in that tweet, he said, the risk you run is if you do it, you might lose CJ Stroud. That to me tells you all you need to know. That to me tells you all you need to know about right now the makeup of CJ Stroud. Quarterbacks can go out there. They can have poor performances. But there does seem to be kind of a mental thing going on here. Last year, you had him saying that he wasn't having fun, and you can just kind of see it and you can just kind of sense it. So if it's mental, like, how do you get over that? It's a legitimate question. Like, how do you get over that if it is a mental thing? And that's a hell of a battle to go through when you're talking about that. Like before the game, I was trying to kill time. I hate when you wake up early. And shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring the video. Shout out to the greatness of TDECU as well. You can get the fresh Texans debit card. Might get some discount merchandise right now. With that fresh new Texans debit card, you get 15% off. All you got to do is go to tdecu.org/Texans. Membership is required, insured by the NCUA. Go get that fresh new Texans debit card. But I was killing time. I hate when you wake up and you have time to kill before a game. Now, fortunately, it was a 2:00 kick instead of the 3, but you have time to kill. Went to HEB, got some work done, figured some stuff out, and then I watched the 1993 Oilers documentary. And it was basically the downfall of the Oilers after they blew the game to the Bills. The next year they blow the game to the Chiefs, and the organization blows up. But something happened there that I thought was interesting. Warren Moon got benched. And then Warren Moon went back in, and he actually led the longest win streak in the NFL at that point since the Miami Dolphins' unbeaten season. And he handled it fine. So is it not a little bit crazy that you see what you've seen with CJ Stroud, where it feels like there might be something deeper, and then someone who covers him closer than anyone says that if you bench him after he throws 4 interceptions in one half, you might lose him? That's a little bit crazy to hear. That's a little bit crazy to hear. That's a little bit troubling to hear. Let's hear what DeMeco Ryans has to say. We'll get to the chat. We got plenty of time to react to this. The Texans lose. The Texans waste an opportunity. DeMeco, can't put that O in there, DeMeco. Can't put that O in there. He addresses the media. Let's hear what DeMeco had to say.
Good evening. First and foremost, and all glory, honor, and praise to God. I'm just thankful for the season that we were able to have. Didn't finish the way we would like to see, but I'm proud of this team, proud of these guys for just being the light and shining bright. Guys accomplished a lot of firsts, did a lot of great things, throughout this year. Provided a ton of inspiration to a lot of people, especially to the city of Houston. So no, we're not coming back with the win, but we know we have a ton of fans. They're proud of what these guys were able to accomplish this year, and I'm proud of these guys as well. And when you're in a game of this magnitude, we've done a great job all year of protecting the football and running the ball well. That's been our formula. And to come here when we needed it most, we didn't protect the ball.
Yep.
And it's tough to think that you're gonna, win a game when you turn the ball over 5 times.
Fact. Absolute fact.
And we still had opportunities there. Guys still battle. That's why I love this team. Even though, you shouldn't be able to come back from 5 takeaways, we were still fighting. We were still scratching and clawing to be in that position. No, CJ's our guy. I believe that he could come back out in the second half and flip it.
He doesn't
believe that he could play. We were still fighting. We were still scratching and clawing.
He doesn't believe that. He paused there.
Be in that position.
He paused. Watch this pause. Did you consider benching?
No, CJ's our guy. I believe that he could come back out in the second half.
You don't believe that.
Flip it. I believe that he could play better.
You don't believe that.
And he did that in the second half. He did play better. We had some positive drives there in the second half. Because I believe that he would do that, and he did that. And as I always tell our guys at halftime, it doesn't matter what happened in the first half. You have to flush it, remove it, and you just have to go out and finish the right way. And I told you, we've been there before. We've been in situations much more dire than this, and we were able to bounce back. So, in my mind, there was no doubt in my mind that we would be able to.
Yeah, but you bounce back with Mills, brother. Like that's the thing. He says, CJ's our guy. He's like, we were in much dire situations as this, and we bounced back. That's the case against CJ Stroud. You dig? Like when they were down against Jacksonville in a much dire situation, that was Davis Mills. That was not CJ Stroud. So that's actually the case against, and we saw the pause there. But that's actually the case against.
Overcome that.
Given how well you ran the football against Pittsburgh, did you anticipate having this much difficulty against their defense?
Yeah, we knew that in their interior defensive linemen were really good players. Milton and also Barmore, really good players, and they did a good job. And they controlled the front tonight. Like last week, we were able to control the front. We were able to run the ball. We did not control the front well at all. Did not run it well. Did not do a great job up front. Did not run it well when we had opportunities. So, credit to the Patriots for what they did up front with their interior defensive linemen. I would have to look at the tape to see exactly what happened, what were the miscues on the interceptions.
It's a good question. Did it look like his confidence had wavered? Look at DeMeco. He's thinking. He knows the answer is yes. But props to Sarge for asking. But he's not going to tell the truth. They don't really say when it comes to the handling of CJ Stroud, much like he goes up to the podium after he plays bad and says he played well, which was crazy. It's not their fault. You have to handle different people different ways. Like some guys you can probably yell at, some guys you can't. But it was obvious that his confidence was wavered. But DeMeco, he's not going to say that. And I'm not sitting here saying that's soft or anything. It's just the cards you're dealt. Not everybody deals with it the same. But I'm assuming that I'll bet y'all he's going to say he didn't see his confidence waver.
No, I just felt like you just keep battling. Like that's my main thing. Like in the game, a lot of bad things happen, and that's the nature of the game. Bad plays happen, but you just move on and you go to the next play, right? And that's where you can't let one bad play turn into another. You just keep punching, and that's what I wanted to see our guys keep doing.
Oh no, we're going slippery field.
I would have to ask CJ about that one. Yeah, he came out the second half, and we had a really nice drive there to begin the second half to go down, and we should have scored there, but we ended up getting points, and we got us in field goal range. We were able to get points. So yeah, I felt that our entire sideline felt it. He bounced back and gave us a really great positive drive to start the half. Keep your head up. I love you. Like, I got your back. And that's what I told him at halftime. This whole team has your back. Like, we're in this thing together from day one. Like, it doesn't change for me. Like, we have a really special group, a tight-knit group. When things don't go your way, you have bad performances, it's not a time to point fingers or say it's on one person. If anybody, it all starts with me. For me, as the head coach of this team, we didn't perform well. Obviously, I didn't have our guys, ready to go in this moment. So that starts with me. We stick together. I thought the defense did good. Daniil did what they always do. They got after the quarterback. They gave us opportunities, got the ball out multiple times, so it gave us opportunities to stay in the game.
Yeah, what was that about?
Say that again.
4 minutes left, 4th and 18, 2-possession game, 1 timeout. They punted. They quit. I'm glad this is asked. I think that's J.A.
And we didn't punt on third down. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I make decisions there in the game for us to get the ball back get the ball to our defense and see if we can make a play.
That's how little confidence he has in the offense. You'd rather quit and try to make plays with the defense. It is what it is. Weird decision, though, for being honest. Nitpicking.
Yeah, I believe, CJ has done a lot of great things throughout this entire year, right? And I know CJ. I know what it means to him. And if anybody, you think about, how anybody's feeling at this moment, you think about CJ. I think about the man first and foremost, right? It's not about the player. Of course, it's not what we would have hoped for. It's not what we thought would happen. But I still stand by the young man, believe in him and what he's done for us to be in the position we're in right here today, right? It's because of, him and all of the guys on our team for battling, fighting hard, making the plays to put us in this position.
Man.
Hey, bro, Alpha Aaron here.
Yeah, I'm not in the mood to talk about the offseason right now. Right here, right now, I'm proud of our team for making it to this moment. The guys did an outstanding job. A place where a lot of the teams would love to be. It didn't end how we wanted to end for sure. We keep battling, right? There's one little hiccup here, right? We
Hey,
just
one
keep
little
battling.
hiccup, brother. This is a
Yep.
season ender, dude. This is like a this is a stab in the heart. This ain't a hiccup, sir. This is a stab in the heart. Oh man, hiccup.
Yeah, I wish we knew. We don't
Hey, no
want to have the
hiccup.
turnovers. That's the most turnovers we've had probably all year. We've been top in the league of protecting the ball all year. And for us to come out in these past 2 games and have the amount of turnovers that we've had, it's not winning football. So we got to find a way to not have that, clean it up, and get it fixed. It never deflates us. Once when there's time on the clock, we're always in it. Like they make plays too. Like that, it's the NFL. The other team will make plays. Credit to the kid. He made a really outstanding one-handed catch. It was a really great catch by him. Yeah, we got to play better football. There's not any secrets. We got to protect the ball. We got to play better football when we get in this moment. For the past 3 years, we have not played well, haven't protected the ball well, and we have not executed well in this moment. So it's not a magical elixir that's going to happen to get past the divisional round. It's still football. And you got to go out and you got to execute football really well in these moments, and we have not done that. You keep the main thing the main thing. For me, we can't go back and replay the game right now. So in this moment right now, it's a moment of gratitude, a moment of thankfulness for not only our players, but, man, we have a lot of people, our support staff, coaches, who pour a lot of time and effort into what we do, right, to be here. And so I'm just thankful for the people that I have working with me. Like it's a joy to show up to work and work with the people that I get to work with on a day-to-day basis. That's what makes it special. So it's easy for a lot of people to dwell on the negatives in this moment. We get it. We lost a tough game, big game, but at the end of the day, hey man, God is still good to us, right? And it's still a special team, and I will never shy away from saying that. All right, good. See you.
I can at least respect DeMeco that, I mean, I think the coaching, like we can nitpick and we can talk about the punt, the offense limited, but just a quarterback with a pulse and you win this game. Like I don't know what more they could have done. Like, should they have just taken a knee 3 times like after they got the lead? Like maybe the result would have been better. But in this instance, like, just speaking of what DeMeco Ryans did, unless you think that there's like some sort of problem with a defensive minded coach, and maybe that creates a gap between the defense and the offense, then I can understand that. And I do think there's times where Nick Caley, and this was something that I learned as the season went on, the more information you gather, the more you see things, the more you observe things. Like, working with a defensive minded coach is different than working with an offensive minded coach. A lot of times it's going to lean defense. And quite frankly, with the strengths on this team, you probably should lean on the defense. They tried to do that. The quarterback was scared to run. As soon as contact came around him, he tried to get rid of the ball because I don't think he wanted to get hit. And at the worst time, he played his worst football. It's very simple. It's very simple. Like, they dodged a bullet last week, and then the bullet got him. The bullet got him today. And it was as simple as the quarterback played bad. Very simple. It's not because of any injuries. It's not because of any referees. The quarterback played bad. And it was historically bad how bad the quarterback was. And you look at when this thing started with DeMeco Ryans, the first draft pick they made was the quarterback. Now they wanted Bryce Young. They ended up getting CJ Stroud. And that looked great after year one. And it's been kind of a downward spiral since year two. Now, where do we point to? I don't know. Like, where do we point to? How did this happen? Don't know. The offensive line, well, he was actually doing his best work when the offensive line might have been the worst with Bobby Slowick. The offensive coordinator, well, he's got a new offensive coordinator. And I actually thought that offensive coordinator was performing well. The offensive line, I actually thought the offensive line improved this year. The weapons, I actually thought the weapons improved this year. Blame the defense? No, it's a historically good defense. One of the best defenses in franchise history for a franchise that has had some really good defenses. So I don't know like what excuse you can really give CJ Stroud at this point. Like what is the excuse for CJ Stroud at this point? I know quarterbacks are polarizing. I've always tried to balance this. There's always a lot of passion when it comes to the quarterback. Some people say he's the worst guy ever. Some people will defend everything. But what is the excuse for CJ Stroud? There's no excuse. There's no excuse for CJ Stroud in this moment. And where does it go from here? If it is a mental thing, how does that go away? Because here's the problem. CJ constantly talks about, having to block out the highs and the lows. And after year one, we saw how high he got. He got high, not off that high grade, but he got high.
High grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
I think a lot of it haunts him. He was on $1 million worth of game. You see that he put himself above Josh Allen. Like you see all these quotes, the Caleb Williams little brother, you saw that. And now the lows are just as low, if not lower. So I know it's something that he mentions. I know it's something that he battles, but he's the joke of the internet right now. He's the joke of the internet. That's not me being mean. That's not me saying that it's right or anything. Go type in CJ Stroud on your search on X. You might get some laughs. Go type it in. Go type in CJ Stroud on your Instagram search. See what shows up. CJ Stroud went from being the toast of the league to now kind of like the running joke. And how does he handle that? There's some guys who are equipped to, there's some guys who aren't. But the biggest mistake that I think was made was you assumed that the worst was last week. Maybe CJ Stroud knew what he was talking about when he said that he played well last week. Maybe I should have taken that a little bit more serious. Like when Nick Caley comes out and says, oh, it's not the norm. It's not the norm. Like that was the message this week. Oh, we know that's uncharacteristic of us. It continued. That's not us. Well, you know what? There's a lot of times, there's guys, we make a joke, we play a drinking game about me saying flip the switch. There's some guys who are able to flip the switch when the lights are brighter. There's some guys who wet the bed when lights are brighter. Maybe CJ Stroud's just one of those guys that we've been hanging on to this Georgia Ohio State game in which they lost, and maybe that was just kind of not the norm. Because the thing that has shined the brightest in these wins has been DeMeco's defense. Like the wins that the Texans have had, they have 3 playoff wins with DeMeco Ryans. One was against the Browns. I think they scored 2 defensive touchdowns. It was a complete assing. Then the Chargers, Justin Herbert threw more interceptions in that game than he had all season. The Texans were kind of handcuffed. They didn't have receivers. And then the Steelers, 2 defensive touchdowns. So the question is going to be like, where do you go with CJ Stroud? You just put the best team possible around CJ Stroud. By the way, we're waiting to hear from CJ Stroud. He still hasn't gone up there. So a little bit later to the podium than usual, but I'm assuming he's going to go up there and we'll probably hear from him. It'll be interesting to hear what he's got to say. I do like though, how DeMeco Ryans, whether they win or lose, it's all glory to God. I'm not sitting here saying like, I'm not making like a religious stance. I think it's cool that he's even keel enough to where it's glory to God, whether they win or lose. I think there's at least some consistency there with DeMeco Ryans. But I'm gonna get this confession out of the way. Then we'll go to the chat. We'll wait to hear from CJ Stroud. We'll go through the moments. Again, shout out to TDECU for riding along with myself and Cody, the official credit union of CJ Stroud and SNL. Reaction Monday SNL tomorrow. probably at about noon. But if you want to get that Texans debit card, tdcu.org/Texans, membership required, insured by the NCUA. Let's just get this confession over with. Watch this. These are my confessions. Despite the acknowledgement of what we saw from CJ Stroud, I underestimated the yips. Whatever is going on with CJ Stroud, I underestimated. I did not think it could be that bad. Like even just a moderate performance and the result might be different. I underestimated it. I'm mad at myself for doing that, not because I want to be right. Trust me, it benefits me a hell of a lot more the further the Texans go. It benefits me a hell of a lot more. And we're not going anywhere. There's some people who cover the Texans, they cherry pick, and as soon as stuff goes good, you see them putting out more content. 10:30 p.m. the last 3 years, the locker room, SNL 4 p.m. And before that, I was on the radio. I'm talking about the Texans 365 days a year. We already got our trip to the combine. So that doesn't change for me. But it benefits me more if the Texans are good. But I'm not mad at myself because I want to be right. I'm mad at myself because I kind of acknowledged it. And then I just said, okay, well, it can't get worse than that. And it did. It did. And maybe this is something that we should have seen coming. But just make no mistake about this. Like, there are a number of coaches. There are a number of coaches. And I go back to the DJB Anime tweet. They might lose CJ Stroud if they bench him. There are a number of coaches who would have done that. But I do think there's a certain approach to where maybe they are worried about that. It is a locker room number one source for Texans digital content. Appreciate everyone for rolling through. We'll get into some stuff, but good Lord, there is a long line in the chat. So let's hear from you people. And I do mean you people.
Swarm.
Colston says this is why they have lost the last 3 divisional rounds. CJ should not get paid. Yeah, you can't give CJ an extension right now unless you think you can get a good deal. Like you're damn sure not making him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league right now. So unless you think you can get a good deal, then you can do a lot worse than committing to CJ Stroud. But I don't know if it's in his best interest to do that. And you may or may not get a deal. Rob says trade for Joe Burrow. What's your proposed EA Sports Madden type of trade for Joe Burrow? What are we looking at there? What are we looking at when it comes to the Joe Burrow trade, the imaginary Joe Burrow trade? I mean, yes, I would rather have Joe Burrow than CJ Stroud. I don't care how old he is. But what's your imaginary trade there? Nick Jones says, pull the cord on the whole offense. Let McDaniel control the whole thing. 20 years of the same garbage, divisional play, comma, puke. I'm assuming that's almost like an emoji or something like that. The puke, the word. Yeah. I mean, this was Brock Osweiler. This was Brian Hoyer. Like the 2-game stretch by CJ Stroud is worse than any quarterback in Texans franchise history. Like you go through all the quarterback performances where things have ended in the divisional round, it's worse than any of them. So yeah. The Kaizo says CJ sucks. S2 test was dead on accurate. Well, they backed away from that. I never understood the S2 test stuff. I don't know what the S2 test is. I thought it was weird how heading into the playoffs the first year they backed off of it, but I don't know what the S2 test is. So I always thought it was a little bit bizarre. No idea what the hell that is. Biggie FPL says worst CJ performance to date. Why not bring in Mills for the second half? CJ last week was bad. This week was horrific and embarrassing. Yeah, this was worse. This was worse. The Davis Mills thing. I mean, you did have the drive where you started out the second half well, but the Davis Mills conversation, I'd ignored it all year, but this year was a thing. Tazewell says CJ sucks. Not even mad at Kaylee for once. I thought Kaylee called a good game today, and I said at the end of the season, I think there were some CJ. I don't want to say defenders because it's okay to defend the quarterback, but I think there were some CJ passionate folk that were kind of taking exception with saying that Kaylee was doing better than CJ was at that point. Von Clutch says, Landry, buddy. I know CJ played horrible, but do you think front office failed him? No, I don't at all. I think he has a hell of a team around him. I think if you switch the quarterbacks, if you switch CJ Stroud and Drake May, I think the Texans win by 3 touchdowns. I think even if you switch Aaron Rodgers and CJ Stroud last week, CJ having to deal with this Texans defense, I think they win. So, no, I don't think the front office failed him. I think we got to stop that. This was the best defense that he's ever had. The weapons improved. The offensive line improved. The defense was good today. The special teams was good today. So, no, I don't think the front office failed him. This wasn't Deshaun Watson. The front office failed Deshaun Watson before all the off-field stuff happened. The front office failed Deshaun Watson. They didn't fail him. They put a good team around him. He failed them. CJ Stroud failed the Texans. The Texans didn't fail CJ Stroud. So we got to get rid of those excuses. And quite frankly, if you have 2017 or 2020 Deshaun Watson, you're probably a 10-point favorite against Denver, and you're probably a favorite to win the Super Bowl right now. It's not like Deshaun Watson is still the best quarterback in Texans franchise history. It's not really remotely close at this point. CJ's number 2. We can have the discussion between him and Matt Schaub. I think most people would lean Schaub right now. Maybe it's recency bias. Maybe it just kind of is what it is. We'll hear from CJ in a second. I think he's finally making his way up there. I am intrigued to hear what he's got to say after this one. It's gonna be a tough offseason for him. There's no doubt about that. To say the bare minimum least. But no, the front office failed him. Like, how would you say the front office failed him? Are we still doing that? No, they didn't. T says 75% of the league's QBs win that game for Houston. It was god awful. Like it was worse than concussion Hoyer. It's hard to justify. Team player 00 says Kyler Murray. Oh, so you want to bring in Kyler Murray? That's where we're at. We're in the Kyler Murray business. Goodness gracious, you had a bad game when we're in the Kyler Murray business. MRJ wants to trade for Burrow. Call the Bengals. Maybe a QB swap will help both teams, even if you have to throw in a pick or two. Man, we've traded him for Burrow. We've talked about Kyler Murray. Jay Curd, appreciate you, my friend. Trucker Cam TX says, I'm throwing away my CJ7 jersey. I'm done with him. Is it a new one or an old one? You can't throw away the new one. That's only like 2 years old. You can't throw it away. You got to keep it. You got to keep the jersey. Anthony7865 says, if Allen or Jackson cannot win, do we expect Stroud to win? Not an excuse. Stroud cannot get over the hump. I mean, those guys have ran into buzzsaws a lot of the time, and they haven't had performances like this. Josh Allen yesterday missed a throw to Dalton Kincaid, and it's like, oh, he's got to have that one. Like, CJ Stroud's not in that category. Like, CJ Stroud right now is in the category of like in the playoffs, he's in the category of like Mark Sanchez. When the Jets went to the AFC title game, he threw 1 interception in 3 games. Rex Grossman, when the Bears went to the Super Bowl, he threw 3 interceptions in 3 games, I think. Trent Dilfer threw 1. Brad Johnson threw 3. Like, all these quarterbacks that you got to game manage, Lamar Jackson has had some playoff games better than others. A lot of times he's gone down in glorious defeat. Same with Josh Allen. They've never had games like this. So they're not getting over the hump. If you put Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson in their prime on this team, they're favored to win the Super Bowl. Like, there's no comparison. Like, you don't mentioning CJ Stroud and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen in the same sentence at this point. It's kind of a disservice. Let's go to Europe. Shout out to Michael. He says, for us fans in Europe, it's 1 a.m. Please give us a nice roast of this QB. This is not worth staying up late for. Feel sorry for the defense. See you all next year. Thanks for the coverage, Landry and Cody. Well, thank you. Shout out to Europe. 1 a.m. Goodness gracious. Can't imagine what the pubs are like and all that, but appreciate you. Next year, hey, For some, they might take a break before next year. We're back. We're back on the air tomorrow. We're back on the air every day. So we're 24/7. So keep riding with us. We're all in this together. WBFX says people gonna get mad and say we ain't true fans because we dog CJ. And nah, you're true fans. You have eyes if you do that. But enough is enough. 4 INTs is very unacceptable, despite wide receivers dropping passes. Horrible. Nerd Rage Initiated says we have to be real. 2 OCs, same outcome. Common denominator is CJ. Pat South 2.0 continues. CJ did good when there was no tape on him. Now his favorite excuse is they played a lot of show coverage. God, he mentions the show coverage a lot, man. It almost makes you wonder if there's like some sort of blueprint. But, man, my guy mentions the show coverage a lot. That Fort Worth guy, shout out to you, my friend. He was at Spanky's last night. We'll be at Spanky's this Friday. We're still going to Spanky's, man. I'm telling you, we got the TriStar show in 2 weeks. No Super Bowl. We were kind of excited for that, but we got the combine, so we keep rolling. That Fort Worth guy says, I hopped on to say I hate football, but appreciate the crap out of you. Thank you for this community. Lastly, fire the whole offensive staff and GM. So he wants the Knicks gone. Nick. Yeah, you do wonder how they'll handle this offseason. They just got to put the best team possible around CJ Stroud. He's talent dependent. It's got to be perfect. I mean, this was a perfect path. This was perfect surroundings, but it's got to be even more perfect. They just got to make it even better. They have no choice. Texans NBR says Davis Mills, Dak, Joe Burrow, or a new OC. One must happen. So you want to either bench CJ for Davis Mills, you want Dak Prescott and Joe Burrow. I always thought it was funny how people talk about Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott with this team, whether you go 2016 Dak Prescott, like all the way through, Dak Prescott with this team, Super Bowl. You don't need a lot. You don't need a lot. You just don't need what you got. You don't need a lot. You just don't need what you got. That's the thing. You don't need a lot. You just don't need what you got when it comes to the quarterback. MHW Nation says, after this game, I hope there's a QB competition this offseason between CJ and Mills. I don't know if they're going to do that, but that would be funny. Waylon Whitley, 3484, CJ and 2 firsts for Burrow thoughts. You're the second person to say that. I think you're the third person to want to trade for Burrow. Look, Joe Burrow is better than CJ Stroud. I mean, I don't dispute that. I don't know if it's realistic. But yeah, Joe Burrow with this team, Super Bowl. Like, we can go through, like, yeah, Joe Burrow. Here's how I answer it when you throw out these quarterbacks. I'm all these quarterbacks that have been thrown out. Dak Prescott with this team, Super Bowl. Joe Burrow with this team, Super Bowl. Kyler Murray with this team, I don't know. I'm not going to take it too far. Davis Mills with this team, I don't know. Matt Marr says, already said this as a regular chat. Now I want a super. CJ is right-handed Tim Tebow, except CJ is scared of competition and contact. He's definitely that. Since he's come back from the concussion, and he actually used his legs one time today. He actually did a good job of extending a play and hitting Schultz before he went down. But yeah, the contact fear was definitely a thing. I think he should wear the Guardian cap. I said that this week. ESG Soccer said, Woody looked like Toy Story, 1.2 yards per carry and a big fumble. That was a big-ass fumble, man. That was a big-ass fumble. And that was a big drop by Stover, too. He probably would have gotten in the red zone. And then it was also a nice catch by Hutchinson to kind of bail CJ out when he threw it low. But, yeah, that was a big fumble. Back in Black 5088 says, sadly, I think we're in QB hell. Yikes. Like the Colts. We are stuck with Stroud. This team will not get a top 5 or 10 pick with DeMeco. So chances of drafting a really good QB, probably not good. Must build Pro Bowl line. Only chance we have. I'm with you. You just got to build the best team possible. You just got to build the best team possible. And I like the term QB hell. I think that's a good observation by you. Look, if you pay a quarterback elite money and he's not elite, that's QB hell. If you can't find a quarterback and you're just having to basically tread or churn the position, that's QB hell. That's what Indianapolis is in right now. But yeah, they don't really have a choice. They just have to build the best team possible. And this team was good enough. The quarterback just wasn't. So that's just kind of where they were at this year. And we'll see how CJ Stroud handles this. I can't wait to hear what he has to say. JB Bubblehead says, break break down the offense, start over, staff and players starting with CJ. It's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask. Truth with ES6690 says, I've been saying this. CJ isn't him. He's been shitty all season. He should have been benched for Mills. They don't care about the fans or the team. I don't think you're alone with your frustration. Texans number 1D. That's a fact. The organization is scared of crumbling CJ's feelings. If he's not been up to par, let it be known that he has to. Expectations, there's a lack of accountability. You have to handle players different ways. They don't want to break CJ, and they want to try to they want to try to get the most of him. Tyler Olson said Bryce Young got benched and led his team to the playoffs. If CJ can't handle the same adversity, then trade him to the Browns for 3 firsts and let's keep it dragging. The Browns ain't giving you 3 firsts for CJ. Camblamo says there is one word to describe this organization: ignorant. Stroud especially. There's no accountability from anyone. They won't admit they're bad. They're on a mediocre treadmill. ESG Soccer says also FSNL for cursing our starting tackle. Come on, he was hurt before. He was hurt before that, and then his foreign opponents went out there. He actually put on a good performance. He played a good game. We gave him the will to go out there and do his thing. I knew the SNL curse was coming up. Shout out to you, ESG Soccer. Evan says his decision-making is horrible. Lost us this game. CJ, no doubt. No doubt. Drew K-Dub says CJ is mentally weak. The cognition was looking real low, and I love the kid too. ESG again, seriously, who watches tape with CJ? Dude doesn't know how to take criticism. Get him out. Not a grown man in a grown man's game. Trey of Texas says, Stroud, proof you can ruin a QB by having a shitty O-line for a year or two. I disagree with that. I think that's a free pass. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that at all. I don't think this is organizational malpractice. Brian follows that up, and I think he's correct. For 2 years, they wanted to blame it on Bobby or the O-line. Whole time, it was CJ. I agree with the initial, but yeah, there is a constant.
Damn it, Bobby.
There is a constant of it. The Kyozo says, this bald curtain forced me to watch the worst QB play I've seen this year. Miko exposing himself that he has no idea how to handle the offense. That was the reservation about a defensive-minded coach. We hear about it a lot, but that's what happens. Before we hear from CJ, one more. Nomad_Scott. God, I bet he is depressed right now. This dude consumes a lot of Texans content. Appreciate you, my friend. He says the single message from everybody was that this team can win with defense, and CJ just can't lose it for them. Then CJ goes to have 5 fumbles and 5 picks in 2 games. You nailed it. Let's hear from the man of the hour. Maybe not for the best reason. Let's hear from CJ Stroud. Let's hear what he's got to say after this. Man, I got my popcorn for this.
Oh, yeah. First, before I do anything, I want to give God the glory, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And without him, I'm nothing. And I just appreciate him giving me this opportunity, this platform to play this great game with this great organization. So just grateful for that. I think I'm a pretty self-confident person. I think, when they started to pile up, I try my best to, stay, locked in the spirit and, realizing I just got to be there for my teammates, and they encouraged me a lot through it. So I'm really appreciative of this team and, them doing that because they didn't have to. But yeah, it was not easy. It's something that I'm learning from, and I'm just grateful for my teammates for picking me up.
Hey, bro, Alpha Aaron here.
Yeah, I look back at the season and just once again, I can't just be anything but grateful for the teammates I have, the coaches that I have, the organizations, the city of Houston, the fans, and I just, I look back and I just feel like I let people down, and not happy with that, and it hurts, and I'm not, naive to it. I didn't play my best this year, but I'm gonna, respond. I'm gonna, keep my chest up, my chin up high, and I'm gonna just keep battling forward. If God before me, who can be against me? And I'm just gonna rely on that. But yeah, I think even today, just our team doing great. Our defense, getting stops. And I just being careless with the football. I gotta, get that fixed and something that I know I can. So I'm
Too late, man.
gonna get that done.
Too late, brother.
No, ma'am. I don't think that's smart on my part to get myself out the game. And I don't
Asked
think
him if
my
he thought he
coach
should
would ever
fit
do that
himself.
either. But if he did, I would understand. But I think my whole team trusts me. They believe in me. Just like how quick it can go bad, they know how quick I can get hot. So, today it just wasn't my day, and I appreciative of my teammates having my back once again. But yeah, that doesn't cross my mind. I believe in myself, regardless of what happens on the field. I'm going to continue. I think just trying to make plays, trying to, push the ball down the field and, put our team in position to score. So my intent in it is never to get to do that, and sometimes it just doesn't go your way. And, that happened today. And I take full responsibility. Something I'm going to learn from is just, ball security is everything, especially, the way our defense has played all year. And it's something that I've done a pretty good job of, up to this point. So,
Not last
I'm
week.
going to continue to, get better in that area. And, I'm not happy with myself when it comes to that because, I'm giving, points and opportunities away from our team. And we have so many great players on our team, great, on offense, defense, special teams. And the way our defense played all year, I'm just very, I'm not happy with, with that. Yeah, I remember, not feeling the best, and for him to come up and say that, means a lot. I remember coming up on my 30 visit when I was, just about to get drafted. I was 20 years old, young, wet behind the ears, and he told me no matter if you come on this team, no matter what happens, I'm gonna always have love for you, and I'm always gonna be there for you. So, for him to say that in that moment really means a lot. And not only just him, but a lot of my teammates did that, and coaches and loved ones. So I just really appreciative of that. That support really helps me because I know I get the other side of it as well. Where I get so and I'm well deserved of all of it. I don't shy away from good or bad. I'm gonna keep my chest up, my chin high, regardless. Um, we'll go back and look at the film, but I don't try to bulk it all together. Every year is different. So this year point blank, we just didn't put points on the scoreboard. Our defense got stops all year, got turnovers. Put us in great position, and I didn't put us in position. To get us the wins by scoring points, not in 7, not 3. So that's kind of how I look at it, and that's what it is. So I take full responsibility. I'm the leader of the offense, and it's up to a lot of the things are on me to get it done to get us 7, and we just didn't get that done this year, and I didn't get that done. So I take full responsibility, but I think as I look back, maybe that's the thing. We got to get better offensively. No, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and I know, you know, you know, I know that I'm, still getting better, and I still got a lot of things to figure out. I'm year 3 for me. It'll be year 4 next year, and I'm still learning every day. Had a new system this year and new guys, and something that I'm still getting adjusted to. But yeah, that's no excuse. It's just I gotta learn from that, and I try my best to forget successes and failures. So regardless of what it is in that specific season, I'm gonna learn from this, and I'm gonna move on. I'll be better, and I'm gonna be back. Yeah, I mean, they did a good job of stunting, and we knew that they had a really good D line, and they were good on the back end. So, the pick six, he made a heck of a play. I tried to make a play and had a guy open, but he hit my arm and made a great play. And I just in that moment probably just take a sack, and go on to the next play. But it's something I can learn from, and it just sucks that it has to be, in this game and in this.
We'll get to this in a sec. I got some thoughts on this. We'll get to it in a sec.
Environment, on this stage, but like I said, I'm not gonna hold my head down, and I just feel bad. I really feel like I let my teammates down, but I'm gonna move forward.
Hey, bro. Alpha Aaron here.
Yeah, I think it comes back to the foundation. I think the way the McNairs have built our organization, with hiring DeMeco and Nick, I thought they did a great job, and I think the future is bright for us, and I'm excited, to be in it, and to be on this team and in this city. So I don't take that for granted, but I think Will's right. We have a lot of ball left in our careers, God willing. So we're gonna learn from this and move on. I mean, yeah, I got hit, but I mean that happens every game. So I mean, it didn't really affect it. I just, probably just try to shake it to get some blood flow back in it, but it didn't really affect it in many ways. Yeah, it means a lot. It means the world to me because I know I see the work people put in every day. I see, the grind that we've been put on, especially, when we went 0-3 and, for us to win, or was it like 9 or 10 in a row, I've seen everybody get in there early, put their best foot forward and don't blame, don't point fingers and just work. And so I'm just really appreciative of that. And I don't take that lightly. And I just, want them to know that I love them, and I told them that, and I will always be there for them. I know they're there for me. So, this isn't the end. This is just, something in my story and our story, as the Texans, that, God willing that, it'll get better soon. All right, y'all.
All right, there you go. That's CJ. So here's my problem with this, and we'll go through the big moments in a sec. We still got some stuff to go to in the chat, but here's my problem. All this stuff that he's saying, I'll have to learn from. It's stuff that happened last week against the Steelers. It's stuff that happened last week against the Steelers. Well, I got to feel pressure and, live to fight another day. I got to not force throws. I got to not be reckless with the ball. Yeah. Like that's exactly what the case was last week. But what did they say last week when they won? And by they, I mean CJ, I mean DeMeco, and I mean Nick Caley. What did they say? CJ said he played well. Drake May didn't say he played well, by the way. Drake May had a few fumbles. He played better this week than CJ did last week. He didn't say he played well. He actually said the opposite. But CJ literally said at the podium last week that he played well. He said it not once, but twice. Nick Caley said he's not worried about CJ Stroud's turnovers. I'm not worried about it. It's uncharacteristic. It'll be fine. And then the same thing happens the next week. And now we're hearing, well, I got to learn from it. Well, you just dodged a bullet last week and it happened again. So now we want to learn from it. Now it wasn't good enough. That's not practicing the Van Gundy theory. I know that's something that I live by. It's one of my main theories when I get in here. Don't ignore in victory what you would not otherwise ignore in defeat. They didn't do that. They didn't do that. At least they didn't act like they did. And quite frankly, with the actions and the results, I believe them. So that is crazy to hear that he thought he played well last week, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, I got to work on this. Well, y'all said y'all weren't worried about it. So I don't know if it's real accountability or not, but that's what happened. And this is not like some revisionist history type of thing. You go back and look at last week's Last week's postgame, first thing I said afterwards, wow, he thought he played well. Wow, he thought he played well. And now it's I got to work on that. No, you should have put a lot of focus into that this week. Like last week should have been unacceptable. Like last week, what you probably would want to hear, and now it kind of holds up a little bit more, is yeah, I didn't play good at all. I didn't play good at all. We're lucky to have won, and I got to figure this out. You remember when JJ Watt walked off the field with Deshaun in 2020 after Deshaun had an elite season, but the Texans ended up losing. He's like, yeah, I wasted one of your good years. You remember that? That's what CJ Stroud should be saying to the defense. But now suddenly it's not good enough and I got to work on it. The same thing happened last week. I'm going to take a little bit of a break here. We'll get to the chats. We'll get to the big moments. But first, a word from the greatness of Fanatics Live. My experience, your experience. I'm actually going to probably rip some cards in a sec, but we'll get back. We still got a lot to get to. But here's a word from Fanatics Live breaking down my experience. Hey, it's Landry Locker here. Shout out to Fanatics Live for sponsoring the video. And Fanatics Live, it's fantastic. They are reviving the collector's game like no other. It's easy to collect on Fanatics Live. Whether you're a NFL fan like myself, an NBA fan, MLB, Pokemon, they got something for everyone. Whether you're a beginner or an expert, it's awesome. It's thrilling. It's fun. It's such a fun process. We all remember opening packs of cards, but now there's instant rips where you get the instant satisfaction. Every single pack has a professionally graded card. I'll take you through my experience in a second. And the beauty of it is you're not stuck with it. It goes immediately in your collection. We'll get to that a little bit later. And they also have breaks. You don't have to buy the entire box, whether it's an auction, whether it's a spin. You get a team, and every player from that team that gets opened in the break, which you can watch live, you get those cards. I got some cards. I got a chance for you to win. It's the most interactive way to collect cards. Fanatics Live is absolutely fantastic, and I will take you through my experience on Fanatics Live when I partook in it, my first of many. So I started out by getting in a break, and this was a stash or pass. This is one of the cool features. So I got to spin. I landed on the Cowboys. Now, do I stash the Cowboys and take all the Cowboys cards in Houston? That's probably not a good idea. So I decided to pass and spin the wheel again. So I click pass, and then we spin the wheel again. And wherever this lands, I'm going to get every card that is opened of that team in the break, which I can watch live. I got the Steelers. No harm, no foul. Can't win them all. Then I wanted to get an instant rip. I wanted to get some instant satisfaction. So I got my instant rip pack, and immediately the Bo Nix PSA professionally graded 9 appears in my collection. Now I can stash it or I can sell it on Fanatics Live. I decided to keep it and see what happens in the playoffs. Then I decided, okay, well, I want to get in a break, and I want to get the Texans. Let's add some Texans to the collection. This is the beauty of this. You can see all the stuff that they have to offer. The vendors on there are awesome. You can follow them. You can interact with them. That's a lot of time. It's almost like a whole sports collecting community. But I decided I wanted to get some Texans in the collection. So I decided I was going to do the auction. So I scrolled down, $14. I got the Texans. You can see the cards right there. And I actually have them right here because they mailed them to me. You got the Jalen Noel rookie. I got the Higgins rookie. Heck, I even got a Browns break, and I got a Shador Sanders rookie, and I got a Mason Graham autograph. I'm going to give you a chance to win these at an SNL gathering, but you can start your own collection right now on Fanatics Live. I promise you won't regret it. You can get a free pack with a graded or authenticated card. All you got to do is download the app with the link below and join your first stream. The card game has never been more fun. I promise you, you will not regret it. Shout out to Fanatics Live. They have completely changed the game. Yes, they have. And I'm definitely going to rip some cards in a sec. Let's go back to the chat. It's crowded, and then we'll get to the big moments. Texans lose in just embarrassing fashion. And the question again, if not now, then when? You're never going to have an opportunity like this. You're never going to have a defense like this. You actually did a good job of addressing your offense. Injuries are going to happen. Like you can nitpick and point to any injuries. Injuries are going to happen. You're going to have to overcome them at some point. And when you have a superhuman QB, a lot of times you're able to to do that, or when you have a functioning QB. A lot of times you're able to do that. The Texans had the worst quarterback on the field by far today, and they had a bad quarterback last week, but were able to overcome it. So what's next for the Texans? They're not going to have an opportunity like this. It's not going to be as laid out as nicely as it was. And furthermore, does someone kind of jump in line now? Like, you went into this season thinking you're chasing certain teams. What happens with those teams? Do they bounce back? And now New England, they know how to win. They've won in this situation. And I think there is kind of a mental hurdle / Steve Young monkey off the back type of vibe whenever you get over the hump. And now you've allowed New England to do that. So it's not good. They're in a bad spot. And the question is, what should you do about CJ Stroud at this point? I think you just got to build the best team possible around him, ride out the rookie contract and see where it goes. But you don't want to find yourself in QB hell. QB hell would be actively trying to find someone at quarterback or paying CJ Stroud like an elite quarterback when he's not quite there. So I think you just ride it out. You try to improve the surroundings, and you hope that things get better. It is discouraging, though, to hear CJ Stroud go up there and say, yeah, I got to improve this and blah, 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 a week after saying he thought what happened in Pittsburgh was good. Well, maybe it wasn't.
Swarm.
Texans MBR1D says, why did CJ continue to try to put the team on his back? Just needed to manage the game. Eventually, the carrying led to overdoing it, which led to an L. I don't know. I think being scared of contact factored in a little bit. I think that's been the case since the concussion, but don't know. Does DeMeco get us to a Super Bowl? This was his best chance. He's never going to have a chance like this. He's a good coach. The offense is limited. If you're not able to take advantage of this opportunity, it goes back to when are you going to be able to do it? So this is a big thing for DeMeco too. You're kind of on a mediocre treadmill right now that you've been on for a long time. ESG Soccer says, maybe we judge Slowick too harshly. CJ is bad. CJ was over Slowick. You hear him talk about how Nick Caley coaches him and talks to him. CJ was over Slowick. Like, I don't think he liked the way the message was delivered, so CJ was over it. So he got his way, and it looked the same today. Matter of fact, his performance looked worse. The Bearded Ways says, after the draft, I asked why the heck we took Woody Marks. I was told by all media types that it was because he could catch a pass. He's one of the least targeted RBs in the league. Caserio needs to be held accountable. Don't get me started on that. I don't understand it. It's one of his superpowers. It was nice to see a screen today to Woody Marks, but their unwillingness to get the running back involved in the pass game was weird. I also thought it was weird that Jawar Jordan was inactive. I saw him running around the locker room. I figured that maybe he would be active today. He was not. But that's not why they lost. But yes, the Woody Marks in the pass game, I've asked Nick Caley about it. It drives me fucking nuts. So yeah, you're preaching to the choir there. Maxwell says we need to seriously consider trading for another QB. May also need to rebuild our entire offensive staff. You just have to tell me which QB and what it looks like. Fazio Rodriguez says only way CJ erases all this is with an MVP type season and we win a Super Bowl. Well, that's not happening. He's not an MVP caliber quarterback. He can become a quarterback that's good enough in these situations. Maybe he can become like a Brock, like have a season like Brock Purdy had 2 years ago, where they got to the NFC title before he got hurt. He's not an MVP caliber quarterback. It's just not there. Dominic Castillo 5667 says, I knew calling him Coleridge until he get his manhood back was a good idea. Now he gets demoted to Bernard. Okay. Crazy. Overkill dash RB says all CJ had to do was game manage. He didn't even need to perform at a high level. He just needed to hand the ball off and not turn it over. And that should have been his only task. And he failed. Yes, this was he was not asked to do a lot. I think there's a lot of people that are trained to assume, well, the surroundings weren't good and blah, blah. That was not the case today. He was not asked to do a lot. And they're very, I don't know. Like we look at like Peyton Manning coming up short, Steve Young, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. I don't think that those guys have had too many instances where they've had to do as little as what was expected of CJ Stroud today. And he was unable to do it. They built a good roster around him. Malik, Malik says, New Stroud was a pussy the first time he cried after Tank's injury. I didn't think much of it then. He's definitely weak-minded. He's worse than Mark Sanchez. Sheesh. DJ Generation says, I don't want to see CJ in a Texas jersey ever again. He's cooked. Sean Elvis says, I'm so tired watching CJ sulk on the sidelines. His demeanor is terrible. Brady would never act like him. Yeah, he's admitted the body language is bad. I don't know that it's gotten much better, at least to the body language folk, but yeah. Litzation says we win with Alex Smith. Yes, Alex Smith wins this game easily. Alex Smith easily wins this game. You win next week with Alex Smith. Last week's not even interesting. Yes, fact. Screw says Aaron Rodgers. Can you give one more? You want to bring in Aaron Rodgers? Now that's a crazy one. We've heard Kyler Murray. We've heard Joe Burrow. Now we get Aaron Rodgers. Do you want Aaron Rodgers come in and manage a game? My goodness. We go on pesos. Saludos, Landry. Is this our maximum potential for the next 5 years? I don't know if it's your maximum, but it's your constant. I don't know that it gets laid out like. I don't know what the next step is. I don't know what they do. I have no idea what goes on with that. Miguel says Deshaun is over-romanticized, still division round. Over-romanticized in what way? I said he's the best quarterback in franchise history. I said that he's better than CJ Stroud, and I said Deshaun Watson from 17 to 20 wins this game, and they're a favorite to win the Super Bowl with Deshaun. If that's over-romanticized, then what do you disagree with? There's nothing over-romanticized about that. He's the best quarterback in franchise history, and him at the level he was at from 2017 to 20 is enough to win this game and enough to go far. That's not over-romanticized. That's just realistic. Captain Kirk did not arrive today. Man, it was an interesting ride with Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk has arrived. I repeat, Captain Kirk has arrived.
So you had the drop on the first drive, which would have moved the chains, which I thought was kind of a small momentum kick to the nuts, and the Patriots ended up taking the 7-0 lead. But you had the skip pass on second down from CJ or first down, whichever it was. And then you had the drop third pass from Kirk. He ended up scoring the touchdown, but today really kind of looked more like the Christian Kirk that we're used to as opposed to the one-off that we saw last week. PWI-TV says, I want to apologize. I was a CJ guy, 23 draft. Bryce Young would have been better. I'll trade them right now straight up. Bryce Young would have been good here. With the surroundings, he hadn't had surroundings like this. He would have been good. Nomad Scott says, give me Mac Jones. Came from the New England system. I don't think you're serious. You might be, though. It's an emotional time. Nathan Palmer 515 says, I rewatched the Jags game the other day to see which QB responds well under pressure between Mills and CJ after today's game assignment. Because yeah, they don't win that Jags game with CJ. I think the composure with Davis Mills was perfect. We don't have to reset this, but they don't win that game. There's a lot of games that they don't win with Mills instead of CJ, but in that one, they don't win that game. Tony says, I wish Davis Mills was black. I don't know what that means, but my goodness, I will go ahead and hit you with it, Tony. Here you go.
Race car!
Discuss amongst yourselves there. I'll get the bots out of here. There's some bots in the chat. Some of y'all might as well be bots with how crazy y'all are gone. Tate Rodriguez says, thanks for the coverage this season. Looking forward to y'all's offseason coverage. Also, Slowick is getting an interview for the Eagles OC job.
Damn it, Bobby.
Damn, Bobby Slowick and Jalen Hurts. How about that? That would be very, very interesting. Yeah, coverage is going to continue. It doesn't stop. That Fort Worth guy, Malik Willis. Oh, God. I don't know. I think Malik Willis probably wants to start. I don't think they're just going to go all in on Malik Willis. Ladaren says, I don't see any improvement from CJ. QB coach hasn't helped the last 3 years. So we'll get into these like potential quarterback scenarios. Like we'll get into that as the offseason content continues. And I'm sure we'll dive in deep. Like I think the Rams punted on Jared Goff after 5 years. So maybe the Texans get to that point. I don't think you do it right now, but I do find what you're saying interesting, Ladaren, because I've said this, and this has been one of my consistent opinions. And the one thing that I maintain when I cover this team is, yeah, there's some guys that you get along with. Yeah, there's a certain level of respect, but I think there's a balance of the shtick bullshit that we do along with our journalistic broadcast education to where you cover the team not to be their friends, but you're kind of a voice of the fan and you critique when it needs to be critiqued. And my whole thing is, despite the fact I think Gerard Johnson's a great guy, despite the fact it's been just a really fast rise that I haven't really seen a lot of people get the opportunities that he has created for himself. If the offensive line sucks, we always say fire the offensive line coach. If the offensive coordinator sucks, we say fire the offensive coordinator coach. If there's no improvement of the defense, you say fire the defensive coordinator. In the last two seasons, we've seen the offensive line improve. I think Cole Popovich did a good job.
Pop, lock, and drop it. Pop, lock, and drop it.
I think Nick Caley actually improved as the season went on. Once I started looking kind of through the gray area. Was it fantastic? No, but I think he improved.
Nick.
But what would you say the quarterback has done? I would say the quarterback hasn't gotten better the last 2 years. I would say there's a lot of things that the quarterback can only control that haven't gone well. So the quarterback coach, there's all these like puff pieces about Gerard Johnson. They happen all the time. CJ says a lot about him. Quite frankly, the same thing that DJ Bieniemy said, where DJ Bieniemy said, you might lose CJ Stroud if you bench him. Much like I think there was probably a little bit of a nudge of Bobby Slowick. I don't know how he would respond to Gerard Johnson being gone, but it is weird that all the other position coaches, whenever their players or their side of the ball struggles, like there's always like well, maybe this guy should go. We don't hear that with Gerard Johnson. I don't really understand it. I like him. Congratulations to him. I think he's expecting kid number 2. I think he's a sharp dude. He's a talented dude. Great guy. But why does he not get, and I hate the well, you'll say this about this and blah, blah, blah. I always try to be careful about that because I think the I gotcha double standard guy is a lot of times a jackass. And I think a lot of times that there isn't a connection, but this is just reality. Like if the quarterback hasn't progressed the last 2 years, you've changed the offensive coordinator. I think they're pleased with the offensive coordinator this year compared to Bobby. I don't know. Maybe you think it's the same. The offensive line has improved after you got rid of that. Why is that not even a discussion? Seriously, why is it not a discussion? Help me out. Tazewell says, CJ apologists in the chat have to wake up, all caps. He ain't it. I took off the 7 jersey in the second quarter and threw it in the fire pit surrounded by my Texans turf. Shout out to Tazewell for going to Texans turf. Shout out to Dan the man. I don't know about burning the jersey, but it kind of happens. I'm sure it was a good frustration reliever. Dane Phillips says, I thought we were off the QB carousel. So you think you're on the QB carousel? Interesting. Purple Drink says, I don't think Caley has improved. I think he was better the last few weeks. I think you could see the warning signs. I said this. I said this after Arizona, and I said this after the Chargers. I thought Caley was doing better at his job than CJ Stroud was. And the previously mentioned CJ Stroud apologists, which I support, but you would have thought I just said something asinine and stupid. But it kind of feels like it played out. It kind of feels like it played out a little bit. I would have much rather that not be the case. Being right is not the most important thing. But I feel like it kind of played out that way. That's what I would say. Mushroom 713. I'm way behind, not mad, disappointed, and defeated. What hurts most is ending the season not confident we have a franchise QB. Pay Will whatever he wants. Yeah, Will Anderson's going to get the bag. That's a no-brainer. And yeah, the quarterback, like this is the second straight year where you wonder that. Like 2023, you thought you did, but yeah, you just got to surround the QB. He's still on his rookie deal. You just got to surround the QB. Figure it out. Maybe it's the Jared Goff thing where you commit 5 years and then you try to find the guy that's going to put you over the top. Maybe that's where they're heading. I don't know. Maybe that's the realistic thing. Like you can only go so far with Jared Goff, so the Rams go get Matthew Stafford. Maybe there's a 5-year plan, but you damn sure don't have to pay him. And I would not get rid of CJ Stroud. I think there's logical questions about him though. David O says tank for Arch Manning. No. No. Yo, it's Hector says Watson with this team Super Bowl. Yeah, no doubt. Someone said over romanticized because you said that. That's stupid. What was that? Was Mick or Nick, whatever his name is? Jets TGTX says, bruh, no Nico Schultz hurt. You know it gotta go plus K. Yeah, it hurt, but you're gonna have to overcome those things. It's gonna happen a lot. Like Nico gets hurt. You're gonna have to overcome those types of situations sometimes. Denver's gonna have to win a game without their starting quarterback. New England last week, they had to gut one out without their top corner. You got sometimes you got to gut it out. They had plenty. So yeah, it obviously hurts. It's not ideal, but they still with competent quarterback play without throwing the pick six, this game could have changed. Dominic says DeMeco without the O. It's a lifestyle lately. Preston says, I get the CJ bashing, but defense barely played in the third quarter. To give up the TD and time churning drive in the fourth was embarrassing. Yeah, I just can't really get down with that. I think the defense ran out of gas. At one point, Buffalo, I think, or not Buffalo, excuse me. God, I'm thinking about the Bills. But at one point, they had, I think, 7 points off of the turnovers. And let me see. I might have actually put this stat in the notes. But at one point, yes, New England had 7 points off 5 turnovers. Think about that. 7 points off 5 turnovers, and the 7 points were the pick six. The 7 points were the pick six off 5 turnovers. Last week after CJ turnovers, they allowed 10 yards on 9 plays. If you're blaming the defense for running out of steam, or you're blaming the defense for Boutte making a one-handed catch, that's a tough crowd. That's a tough crowd. Maybe you blame Danielle Hunter for not scooping it up. I don't agree with that based on the way that game went. The defense was in firm control, and you gave them 7 points. They're in firm control of that. So I don't blame the defense at all. Different strokes for different folks, though. Nick Jones says, I've been blaming the system. Mills wins that game. Don't know. Sean James 6944 says Stroud cost us, but this is a game where not having Joe Mixon hurt us. Need to properly address running backs in the offseason. You're preaching to the choir there. They need to address depth. Dom says if Woody doesn't fumble, I think we score, and it's 21-20, and that would have given us all the momentum. That Woody fumble was huge. That was terrible, and he ran into the offensive line before. That was a freaking disaster. MH Wheat Nation says, I compare CJ to Flacco before comparing him to Sanchez and Dilfer. Hell, this team reminds me of the Flacco era Ravens. I mean, Flacco was better in the playoffs, though. Like, is CJ better in the playoffs? Like, I like maybe you're talking about the tier. I think that's fair. When I say Sanchez and Dilfer, I'm simply saying that's all he was required to do. I obviously know that CJ Stroud has more talent than those guys. When I compare them, it's what he needed to do. What he needed to do with this defense was he needed to have a Mark Sanchez, Trent Dilfer-like performance. But I mean, is maybe the tier, maybe with Flacco, but Flacco flipped the switch in the playoffs. Sean Elvis says, CJ Press, my teammates, dude has zero accountability and no confidence. Two-day junior. Is that a Billy Madison reference? DJ Generation says, CJ's too cool for school. I'm self-confident. Haters don't phase me attitude with no true self-accountability makes me want him gone even more. Yeah, I mean, last week he said he played well. This week when he had no choice, it was, we got to clean it up. And, it kind of changed a little bit. ESG Soccer says he's been too sad, but we got to move on. You don't got to move on with a guy on a rookie contract, on a rookie QB contract. You ain't got to do that. CJ did not apologize. No awareness or leadership, says JC. Man, CJ's getting cooked right now. I need all that, says, had 1,000 times better chance of winning with Davis Mills playing. CJ's so ass. This is him, not year one CJ. Yeah, year one CJ is not walking through that door. All Eyes again says, trade CJ to the Jets for Breece Hall. Breece Hall's a free agent. That boy Glowski says one seed or bust for this team, and it always will be. So you're saying they can't win on the road. Eric says CJ runs from his poor play in game and post game. He needs a sports psychologist. So you think it's mental? Can you overcome it with the mental side of things? Texans MBR 1D says get rid of Gerard Johnson. I don't know why it doesn't get talked about. There's a lot of love. I know CJ has love for him. CJ says a lot though, but like if the quarterback's not progressing, why isn't the quarterback coach talked about? I do find that interesting. Juan says, I think that changing QBs or rebuilding the offense will set us further back and not allow us to take advantage of the defense. Maybe we should bring back Keenum to help develop CJ. You do wonder. I mean, Case Keenum was there year one. He's kind of an extra coach. Maybe he did have a big hand in things and was a big help to CJ. Maybe Case Keenum is the thing. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing Case Keenum in and making him the quarterback coach. I wouldn't be opposed to that at all if he wanted to coach. I would take that all day, actually. ESG Soccer says, why did we pay Mixon all year to just tweet? Y'all knew he was out for the year in West Virginia. Waste of funds. Also, Barrios is back. Well, they paid him last year. And I don't know what the Mixon thing is. That's one of the weird mysteries of the season. CJ lacks confidence and he has regressed, says OJ. He's definitely regressed and does not look the part of someone confident. But yeah, the regression has been clear the last 2 years. Carbonated Cancer says, late to the show, is there a reason we didn't pull CJ and let Mills take a crack at it? Also, are we good with drafting a quarterback yet? If you draft a quarterback, it's probably like another Graham Mertz type, like a tread the position type of thing, like Green Bay did when they hit on Hasselbeck and Brunell when Brett Favre was there, or maybe like the Patriots when they hit on Garoppolo and Mallett and Hoyer. Maybe you just kind of churn it, or Purdy with Lance, but like you're not like drafting a quarterback early. That's kind of QB hell. Austin Wicks says, people tried to tell you before y'all love CJ so much, Mills should have been trusted. CJ is the weak link. All he had to do was throw the ball away, kill the play. I still love you, though. Go Texans. The Mills CJ argument, I always thought that CJ was the better guy, but I mean, I think the discussion about whether or not to bench him, I think it was a valid one today. And I think there's a lot of quarterbacks that win that game without wetting the bed the way CJ did today. ESG Soccer says, I've been calling for Johnson out since Slow It. QB coach is there to be friends and not coach QBs. Coach JB talked about it a few weeks ago. Response to CJ. Really? I didn't see this, ESG. Message this to me. I did not see this, but I do think it's funny that the quarterbacks regressed, the QB coach is there, and all we see is like puff pieces. I'm not sitting there like, oh, but how bad did we shit on Chris Strausser last year? How bad was Chris? And I've been saying it since the beginning. So like this isn't like me and Cody have just wondered about it. But we shit on Chris Strausser last year when he was the O-line coach. We shit on Bobby Slowick when he deserved it. I shit on Nick Caley throughout the year when he deserved it. DeMeco didn't shadow Jackson Smith and Jigba. We gave him some shit for a week. You guys good? That'll be one of the memories from the year. Where's the questioning the QB coach at this point? I know they're buddies. Does he need a buddy? I mean, I know they have to watch the way that they talk and stuff, but does he need that? I don't know. I mean, I think how is it not talked about? And a lot of times people say, well, nobody says this or nobody says that and all that. And it's like a reach. This is a fact. DeRhino says Case Keenum for QB coach. CJ hasn't been the same without him. I that was one of my nobodies talking about last year. Abjack says CJ might need a massage. Deshaun jokes. Anthony 7865 says more fans at watch party than at actual games. Was the watch party popping? It looked like it was on fire last week. But you know why? Because those fans can actually they're not being priced out. That's kind of what's happening with the NFL. Like those fans aren't being priced out. They want to go enjoy rooting on the Texans. So whenever you see the watch party, if tickets were reasonable, those fans would be at the game and they would be loud as fuck. There's fans that are season ticket holders that are there all the time, but the reason that the watch party might be a little bit more lit is because a lot of those fans who go to watch parties, God bless you. I'm not telling you how to fan or anything like that. I don't even blame the fans for selling their tickets, but they haven't been priced the fuck out. So yeah, that's probably why. That's part of just the nature of business in general and live events as a whole, concerts all the way to freaking sporting events. Nathan Palmer 515 says, if they do get a new QB coach, I want McCown. I want McCown for everything. Josh McCown's my guy. I don't think he can make a lateral move though at this point. It's Hector says, I heard Mixon pulled a Plaxico Burress pew pew. I heard that too. I don't know whether that's true, but I'm not dismissing anything. The Rhino says, CJ is not our best kid. Going Chris Ballard. Yeah, he's definitely not. I don't even know if he's top 10. Seriously, if we were listing the best players on the Texans after this year, like if we were listing, not important, because he's definitely important. Your quarterback's important. But if we were listing the best players, like best at their job, that's how we'll do it. They do their job the best. How many guys would be ahead of CJ Stroud? Their job the best. We won't go as far as deep snapper, but anything else, they do their job better than or as good as CJ Stroud. How many guys are ahead of him? Both corners, both starting ends, maybe Tommy Togiai, maybe Sheldon Rankins, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Aziz is better at what he does. Bullock, I think, although we're going positional value there. Schultz was a better tight end this year than CJ was a quarterback. Nico's better. Woody Marks, you can make a case depending on which Woody Marks you're looking at. So we're getting to like 10. And Fairbairn's better. Better at what they do right now. More important, not a finished product. We're in year 3. But that's kind of where that is. Red_horseplay says, CJ, I'm not a test taker. Stroud got dumber after the concussions, bad decision skills, no leadership, and doesn't inspire confidence. He's not the guy. I think he's not the guy is a fair question, because when you're talking about the guy, you're talking about a franchise quarterback. He's definitely not an elite quarterback right now. You just got to put a good team around him. Let's go through the big moments here on the locker room, and then we'll put a bow on the show, not on the season. Again, y'all know we do this. We've been doing this for a few years now on my channel, even when I was on the radio. Now I've replaced the radio with SNL. So 2 streams Monday through Friday, no matter what point it is in the season. A lot of you want to transition into draft coverage. We already got our trip to Indianapolis. So we're good to go. So that ain't going to slow down. That's where we go. On the chat, Zach says, how many guys on defense do we have to pay this offseason? They got to make a decision at D tackle. They're a little bit old. Like, does Sheldon Rankins, do you give him another 1-year deal? Do you try to churn that? To'o's still on his rookie deal. Lassiter's still on his rookie deal. Stingley's contract kicks in. You're probably going to give Will Anderson an extension, but he's on his deal. Daniil Hunter's already been paid. Kalen Bullock's still on his rookie deal. You're pretty set at defense. You really just got to make decisions at interior D-line, and then you got to figure out what you want to do at LB and probably add some depth. Jalen Smith will be back for corner depth. I'm sure they'll depend on that. And then they'll probably churn in some guys on the D-line. So it's really not that bad. Lil Pine 8835 says, I've lost all patience with CJ. Think the best move for the team is to go for a big trade for a QB, then being on a mediocre track. Our window is now. So you want like a Jared Goff-like trade where like maybe you give up on someone and you go get another one? I mean, if you're talking about that, like if you're looking for a quarterback that's like at the point where Matthew Stafford is, it would be the Burrow trade. I don't know how that lines up financially, but that's where it would be. He's unhappy with his organization. Maybe are going different ways. But that's where that would be. Blaster Lord says, can they even afford to fix this offense? It feels like they just duct tape the offense and ball out on D. They got a lot of draft equity this year, so they got a lot of opportunities to do that. So, yeah, I would say I would say that they're not lost. They have opportunity. And I actually thought they did a good job this year in the draft. I think Noel's going to be a good player. I think he's going to be much better next year. Higgins, I think he's going to be better next year. Kirk's probably gone, but you improve with Noel. We'll see what happens with Nico. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Let's go through the moments here on the final post-game edition of 2025. It's all good, though. We'll get into the draft stuff. So right off the top, Trent Brown and Jawar Jordan both inactive. I think Jawar Jordan was a choice. Trent Brown, I don't know if there was like a setback or what, but all signs pointed to him playing. And he ended up being out. I'm actually shocked that Trent Brown held up as much as he did this year. He was a big part of things. Titus Howard did a good job holding it down on the right side. Right off the top, you had those two guys inactive, which was interesting. Right off the top, you had the Texans defense come out and get a perfect stop. Henry To'oTo'o immediately set the tone. They basically tapped out and threw a sideways pass to Diggs. And then right off the top, you have a sloppy ass 3-and-out. CJ Stroud with a good call by Nick Caley on first down. But he skips the ball in the wind. And then on 3rd and 7, CJ Stroud, a perfect pass, and
Captain Kirk has arrived. I repeat, Captain Kirk has arrived.
The majority of 2025, Captain Kirk arrives. He drops the ball. So then New England gets the ball. They're aggressive. The big play that kind of set it up, 3rd and 14. They throw it sideways. Diggs gets within 1 yard on a 3rd and 14. So they decide to go for it, and then you get the touchdown to Douglas. So the Texans, with an opportunity to reward their defense for getting things started, Christian Kirk drops a pass, and then the defense has to go right fucking back on the field after 3 plays. So the defense does you a favor. CJ Stroud makes a good throw on the first drive. Christian Kirk looks like 2025 for the most part, Christian Kirk. And then New England responds, and they take a 7-0 lead. Then you go to drive 2 for the Texans. This one was a good drive by the Texans, although CJ Stroud threw what could have been a couple of interceptions. There was a near interception to Higgins, probably the best play that a DB made today that wasn't a DB. Jaden Higgins breaks up the pass that would have been an interception by CJ Stroud, and then CJ Stroud makes his best play of the game. We know that he's hesitant to run. He runs forward and he throws it sideways to Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz picks up 42 yards. Then another near interception, a high throw to Xavier Hutchinson by CJ Stroud. And then on 3rd and 6, Christian Kirk, he moves the chains, also draws a face mask. Carlton Davis had 2 interceptions. I swear he's not good. He also had a lot of penalties, but Carlton Davis picks up the face mask. And then the Texans on 3rd and goal from the 2, they score the touchdown, but the touchdown gets taken away because they have an illegal shift. So they have to settle for 3. And that's kind of the theme of this team. They when they get in the red zone, they have to settle for 3. Whether you think that's Nick, whether you think that's CJ, whether you think it's a combination, it's a constant theme. Regardless of the what, regardless of the whys, the whats are always that. They settle for 3. They kick more field goals, as many field goals as any team in NFL history this year. Then you go to New England, their 3rd drive, and this was tough. This is where, when you talk about the defense having to carry the load, plays like this suck because Danielle Hunter fails to fall on a fumble, and it would have been inside the 10-yard line. Texans force a fumble. Danielle Hunter fails to fall on it, and then the Pats have to punt. And the Texans are leaving points on the board right now. That's 3 or 4 points with an offense that has a quarterback that's in over his head, that is struggling to do it. It's kind of crazy that Danielle Hunter, with how athletic he is and how gifted he is, does not fall on that ball. But the Texans get the ball back, and they move the ball. Higgins goes up and gets it on 3rd and 10, goes up and makes a play. 4th and 1, Nick Chubb moves the chains, and then CJ Stroud throws another interception. And at that point, Dalton Schultz is leaving the game, so you're going to be without Dalton Schultz, which they were damn near close to overcoming. But then CJ Stroud throws another interception to kill a Texans drive. So more points. So you leave points on the board with Danielle Hunter not being able to scoop it up. And then CJ Stroud throws yet another interception. Quite frankly, could have been his third or fourth of the game. You go back to Higgins playing DB, the high one to Hutchinson. It very easily could have been his fourth of the game, but he would make up for it. Don't worry about that. Then the New England drive, the Texans defense, once again, another bailout. This time it's Tommy Togiai with the forced fumble. Texans get the ball back. This time they take advantage. Christian Kirk from last week kind of arrives.
Captain Kirk, can you save me? Captain Kirk, I want to have your baby.
And at that point, the Texans take the lead and you feel good. You're like, okay, they can breathe. They got the lead. And New England looks lost on offense, quite frankly. There's a near interception by Kamari Lassiter. Then you see Drake May. He desperately moves the chains. And then they're unable to connect, and they punt to the Texans. And at this point, the Texans are up 10-7. You feel like they're in good control of the game. CJ Stroud, he's already screwed up once, but if that's all there is to it, then you're probably good to go. But he throws a pick six. The Patriots take the lead, and they would never give it back. That was the play. That was where it was like, oh, my God. CJ Stroud is back. CJ Stroud from last week is back. And then you get another interception from CJ Stroud. Now the Texans bail him out once again, but he throws his third interception, this time a little bit behind Hutchinson, a little bit high, and another interception. Titus Howard banged up. He would end up returning. But the Patriots, they end up taking the lead on a Stephon Diggs touchdown. And this was after Booty. I wondered, is Booty going to back up his words? He said the Texans defense is simple. They're not the toughest defense we faced. He backed up his stuff. And for the second straight season, he scored a touchdown on Derek Stingley. Hell of a catch here. And then CJ Stroud, once again, he kills yet another drive. This time the Texans are looking to steal points. And CJ Stroud throws his fourth interception. Huge PI drawn by Christian Kirk. Then a sliding catch by Higgins. And then CJ Stroud kills another drive with his fourth interception. And at this point, you're like, this is Brian Hoyer concussed in 2015 all over again. This is worse than Pittsburgh. Maybe he was right. Maybe CJ Stroud was right when he said he played well last week. And he kills it with the fourth interception. This is when the conversations start. Should the Texans have brought in Davis Mills in the second half? There are a lot of national people that said yes, a lot of them that I respect. Now, Ryan Clark, he was saying you let CJ Stroud finish it out. He's not going to say bench a David Mulligetta guy. I'm just being honest about that. He's not going to say that. Marcus Spears on the set was saying you should. Jason Kelsey was basically saying, well, he's had a situation where he hasn't been asked to do much, and now all of a sudden he has to do it. So should he have been benched? Some say yes. Some say no. DeMeco Ryan said he didn't even think about it. Then the Texans get the ball in the second half. The defense holds up. We go to the second half, and Nick Caley kind of got in his bag a little bit. But the Texans are forced to settle for a field goal. You had a back shoulder throw to Hutchinson, probably Stroud's best throw of the day. Then you had they called it a fumble, but it wasn't a fumble, followed by Higgins moving the chains. Then on 3rd and inches, the Texans get away with a false start, and they're late to the huddle. And this was weird because you look at CJ Stroud, he was freaking out with like 13 seconds left on the clock. Did y'all notice this? So there's like 13 seconds left on the clock, and CJ Stroud's going like this, and there's 13 seconds left, and it's almost like he just bailed on the huddle and gave up. They call a timeout. So the Texans burn a timeout. At the time, it seemed like something potentially big, but they used the timeout. And then on 3rd and 2, CJ Stroud throws nearly another interception. Fortunately for him, it goes to the ground, and the Texans end up kicking that field goal to make it 21-13. Then we talked about Will Campbell. Will Campbell, not good last week, not good today. And Will Anderson punks Campbell. Will Anderson, by the way, with 3 sacks today, Daniil with 2. They both ate and they lost. That is very, very rare for these two to both eat like that and a loss. But Will Anderson punks Campbell. He strips Drake May. And all of a sudden, you're like, holy shit, the Texans are down 8. They got the ball. They got a lot of momentum. And then Woody Marks gets in on the shit show. Stroud, initially, he kind of gets happy feet. He gets sacked. Then Higgins has a sliding catch. Then we finally, good Lord, hallelujah. CJ Stroud finally uses his legs on 3rd and 6 when he needed it most. He moves the chains. But then Woody Marks just completely pisses away the momentum, and he fumbles it. And the Texans, they go from potentially getting 3 points to cut it to 5, 8 points to potentially tie it, 6, whatever. It doesn't happen. And then I'll be damned, the defense once again, they hold New England and they get the ball back. And this was where the Texans are 21-13. You're kind of feeling decent. It's the third quarter. Looks like CJ Stroud's playing better. Jaden Higgins, he draws a pass interference on Carlton Davis, which was massive from the offensive weapons. And then this was a two-piece combo, I think, that kind of really ruined the Texans' opportunity. One good, one bad. One kind of give you a little bit of a prayer. The other one just eliminated it. So Cade Stover, CJ Stroud throws the ball. Cade Stover's got to be an athlete here. You got to go up and get this ball. And if Cade Stover catches this ball, man, he's inside the 25. And he might, if he gets steam going, he might be able to get inside the 10. He might even be able to score. Last week, CJ kind of missed Nico Collins high at the end of the first half. This one, just as much land in front of him. Cade Stover's not Nico Collins, but Cade Stover drops it. And it eliminates a would-be first down, and it also just eliminates an opportunity to score in a one-possession game. Then on the next play, CJ Stroud, inaccurate as he was for a large majority of the game, he throws a low pass to Xavier Hutchinson. Xavier Hutchinson goes down and makes a big play here. And as a result, the field goal attempt becomes 51 yards. Cold weather, Kaimi Fairbairn, we know he hates the cold weather. He stepped it up. He was 3 for 6 in the divisional round before this. He did his thing. Special teams good, defense good. And he cuts it to 21-16. And at that point, you're like, man, New England's offense has nothing going. But then Booty again. Booty gets the best of Derek Stingley. He draws a pass interference on 3rd and 9. And then on 3rd and 5, he makes a one-handed catch on Derek Stingley. Second time in as many years that he scored on Derek Stingley in New England, and the Patriots get the 28-16 lead. And at this point, it's just kind of a bleep show for the Texans, and they never really look back. Some frustrating moments that maybe would have been more frustrating had the game not been close. But you have CJ Stroud. He burns another timeout on 3rd down. Then another near INT behind Stover. Stover actually got hurt because he was trying to come back and catch the bad pass from CJ Stroud. And then the Texans punt. Beautiful effort on special teams, by the way. Could have been massive had the defense done what they'd been doing for the most of the season. Tremont Smith with a hustle play. He dives. They down the ball inside the 5. And at this point, you're like, okay, it's a 2-possession game. It's 28-16. You're kind of looking at those timeouts, though, like, damn. It sucks that they burned those timeouts, but you're thinking good about it. But then New England with the drive of the game. They didn't end up scoring, but they ended up flipping the field position, and they ended up killing damn near half the fourth quarter. 44-yard, 6-minute drive. It all but ends the game. At that point, you're going to get the ball back with 6 minutes left. You have one timeout. CJ Stroud's kind of broken. You can't settle for a field goal in this instance. You need touchdowns. A field goal, it's still a 2-possession game, so you're kind of in trouble. And then DeMeco Ryans with the kind of a quit. And this kind of speaks to how he felt, because 4th and 18, not ideal, but with 4:18 remaining and one timeout, he punts. That's insane. Like, we've seen CJ Stroud make plays on 3rd and long, but either way, you're going to have to stop him in 2 plays or less. if you give them the ball at the 30 and they kick a field goal, you're still down 2 possessions no matter what. So I am really confused as to what DeMeco Ryans is thinking here. Is he thinking that, hey, maybe we can get the ball at the 2-minute warning and then onside kick it? Because this eliminates, if you pick this up, the possibility, like you're still trying to score before 2 minutes. This was kind of a quit for DeMeco Ryans. It was either a quit or it was oh shit, because there was no point to doing that. You go for it on 4th and 18 there, and if they kick the field goal and you hold them to 3 plays, so be it. That was dumb. Honestly, that was actually pretty dumb by DeMeco. I don't know what he was thinking, what he was doing. Fortunately, it wasn't like too close of a game, but in that instance, like let's say on 4th and 18, CJ Stroud flips the switch, and as he has done many times on 3rd down, he's able to connect with, say, Higgins or Hutchinson, and the Texans pick up the 1st down. You score before the 2-minute warning. You have 1 timeout, 2 clock stoppages. You have a chance. When you punt, you only have the 1 timeout. You're probably going to get the ball back with 2:20, and you're going to have to score twice, just like you would have regardless if you hold them to 3. Because in that situation, you have to have them get rid of the ball in 3 downs, whether it's when you punt or whether it's a turnover on downs. That was dumb. That was actually dumb. I'm actually surprised that an NFL head coach let that happen. But the Texans end up losing. It probably didn't matter. And maybe it was a quit. Maybe it was I don't trust my quarterback at this point. But that's what happened. And as a result of that, the 2025 season goes down as more of the same for DeMeco Ryans. Questions on offense, good defense, and the perfect path that was laid out for them with Pittsburgh, New England, even though you lost this game, and Denver next week, it's gone. You will never have a path this smooth again. Maybe you can have a better football team. Maybe you'll get a better quarterback performance, but you'll never get a path as smooth as the one you had laid out. And defensive efforts like this, they don't typically go wasted as much as this one was. Defenses like this at least make it to the conference championship, but that did not happen. CJ Stroud throws the 4 interceptions. The Texans lose. Thought maybe Pittsburgh would be the worst, but it was not. And CJ Stroud finishes with 7 turnovers in 2 playoff games in 2025. And the quarterback position is always polarizing. This is the most polarizing that position has been. And as far as the trade CJ talk, I think you just got to build a better team around him. But it's a damn shame when the defense is good, the special teams is good, but the QB is awful, and you end up going home and pissing away an opportunity like the one that you had. And the Patriots skipped the line. They don't have to wait around. Josh Allen was humbled multiple times by Patrick Mahomes. He's still getting humbled. CJ Stroud was humbled by Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. He was humbled by Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. And when CJ Stroud had the edge in being battle tested, and he actually had to do less than those previous 2 guys, he came up short. And as a result, Drake May nudges CJ Stroud out of the way. He skips the line. And you talk about getting to the next step. The New England Patriots are now battle tested. They've been somewhere where CJ Stroud, DeMeco Ryans have never been. They're favored to get back to the Super Bowl. And that mental hurdle that CJ Stroud seems to have an issue with, the Patriots just add them to the list, put them in front of the Texans now when it comes to where they're at. So how will 2025 be remembered? It'll be remembered as a wasted opportunity. It'll be remembered as more of the same. And it'll be remembered as the intensifying of the questions about the quarterback position. That's how 2025 will be remembered. There's nothing awesome about overcoming 0-3. That just makes you 1 game better than Bill O'Brien in 2018. There's nothing good about that. That wasn't the goal. That wasn't why you got rid of it. So this season was a waste. They're right where they need to be, where they needed to be, and they wasted the opportunity. So that's where it is. I'm not going anywhere. Stoots isn't going anywhere. I don't think CJ Stroud's going anywhere. DeMeco's damn sure not going anywhere. But that's what it is. This is not like some sort of feel-good, awesome story. This is a treadmill of divisional round that remains regardless of how well it's laid out for you and how all-time great your side of the ball is. There will never be another opportunity like this, ever. They might get further, but it will never be laid out as perfect as it was for the Texans. Last time they had an opportunity to get to the AFC Championship game, they had to beat the Chiefs. I know they got up to a big lead, but they had to beat the Chiefs. And they would have hosted the Titans, Mike Vrabel and the Titans, ironically. They pissed that away. They were up 24-0, but quite frankly, what did you expect? I expected a dub today. I expected a quarterback to go out there and be meh quarterback performance. This defensive effort, this special teams effort, you win. You couldn't get that. So they will never have another opportunity like this. And the other questions that will be asked and will be addressed throughout the offseason is, does having a defensive-minded leader handcuff the Texans? I don't think so in this instance. I think right now, leaning on the defense was the right decision. And I don't fault DeMeco Ryans for this. This was all about the quarterback. And I don't know that you feel better about the Texans now than you did at this point last year. Last year, you could blame the offensive coordinator. You could blame Bobby Slowick and convince yourself, okay, maybe this guy from the Rams, although it's more Patriot-y, maybe this guy will be able to figure some stuff out. The offensive line, I like the culture change that they made with Laramie Tunsil. I might be alone on that. Okay, they've addressed some weapons, so you felt good about that. What are you blaming now? It's the quarterback. It's not a good feeling to question your quarterback. It sucks. It's not a good feeling to question the quarterback. But that's where it is right now. So you feel worse about the Texans right now than you did last year, especially with how this big situation was handled. That's where it is. Unfortunate, but reality.
Swarm.
Enzo P50. No matter what, we need home field advantage if we're going to make a run. No quarterback players against our home field. Going to 0-3 to start the preseason. It's not the road games. You would have rather gone to Pittsburgh than hosted Buffalo or Jacksonville, right? That was a favor. New England's never been in this situation. It wasn't the road games. They would have lost this game at home if the quarterback had played like this. It's not the road games. Carbonated cancer. But I appreciate you, man. I don't agree with that. I don't think it's the road games. I think that's another excuse. I think, and by the way, starting 0-3, I think water found its level with this team. There could have easily been some games that they could have lost during the win streak. Buffalo, Kansas City, you have a combined less than 99 yards in the second half of those games. You could have easily lost those. Could have easily lost to the Raiders if you hadn't gotten bailed out with the penalty. So I think close works both ways. They lost to the Rams, who are better than them. They lost to the Jags. I don't know. You cuss and discuss. At the time, Tampa Bay was good. Common sense says with the good offensive line, our good offensive linemen available to drop. They're always available for sure. You got to get the you got to get stuff together and surround CJ Stroud with the best team possible. That's just where you're at. You got to make it the best team possible for it. ESG Soccer says we need to know how much DeMeco did to draft defense. Casario failed the offense. Also, the Mixon story should be massive. We wasted huge resources on zero free agents here. Yeah, he pissed away the money with Christian Kirk for the majority of the season. He pissed away the CJ Gardner-Johnson money. He pissed away the Laken Tomlinson money. The guys that they kicked the tires on, it worked out. But after that, it wasn't great. But the season's been great. I'm not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. And we got a lot of stuff to get into. Appreciate everyone for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Shout out to the greatness of TDECU for riding along this season and during the playoffs. Get that fresh new Texans debit card, tdecu.org/Texans, 15% off the team gear. Ride or die. 15% off the team gear. If you don't want to look at the Texans logo, get that Buc-ee's or get that Cougs. Subscribe, like, ride along. DeMeco Ryan speaks tomorrow. Reaction Monday on SNL. CJ Stroud getting a lot of heat, but he's at least sounding a little bit or presenting his words, his quotes. He insists he's confident. Who knows? Always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Been fun no matter what. Appreciate all of you. This has been a fun time. Thought we were finally going to get to cover an AFC championship game, not going to lie, and then even a Super Bowl. They would have been favored to win the next round. All they needed was a quarterback with a pulse. They didn't get it. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize. Every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop.